You are likely studying ineffectively and probably suffering from cognitive illusion. Neuroscience and learning science can prove it. Right now, your brain is being hijacked by performance traps, techniques that feel like they're working, but are actually eroding your ability to retain deep logic. The difference between a self-development hustler and a genius learner isn't IQ. It's the architecture of their mental web, and that can be developed. Have you ever spent hours highlighting text, rereading chapters, or watching dozens of YouTube videos, only to realize 2 days later you can't explain the core concept? And then you're watching another YouTube video on the subject? This is the illusion of competence. When you reread or watch a video, your brain often confuses recognition with mastery. Research on judgments of learning shows that when something feels easy to process, you think you know it, even when you can't recall it later. You're training your brain to be a spectator, not a player. I've made that same face you're making now, realizing I wasted months polishing information I never actually owned. High performers like Goggins, Justin Sung, or polymaths of the past don't just memorize. They constantly force their brains to retrieve and connect information. On the cellular level, learning is supported by processes like long-term potentiation, LTP, patterns of activity that strengthen synapses when neurons fire together repeatedly. LTP depends on repeated, meaningful activation. And in practice, that means your learning has to be mentally active, not just comfortable. If the information is always served to you on a silver platter, like a perfectly linear list, or a highlighted book you only reread, your brain builds weaker traces and lets them fade. To achieve genius status, you must force your brain to build its own map. Comfort is the enemy of neuroplasticity. The roadmap. Today, I'm giving you 3 neuroscientific protocols to restructure your brain that are backed by learning science. So this might be the last video you need on this topic. We're moving past the flashcard trap everyone talks about and going into relational learning. You'll discover how mind mapping can function as a powerful form of active recall, how to encode information non-linearly, and a 30-day system to make it stick. Pillar 1, the failure of linear learning. Most people study in straight lines. Page 1, then page 2. Bullet point A, then bullet point B. But your brain is a semantic network. When you learn only in a rigid linear way, you create isolated islands of knowledge. If you forget the bridge to that island, the information is effectively lost. This is why you go blank during exams or high-pressure meetings. Research in 2006 with students at Washington University showed something brutal: processing fluency. The ease of reading or reviewing material is a false signal. Students who kept rereading felt more confident, but the ones who did tests and forced themselves to recall remembered far more days later. True retention requires effortful retrieval and varied practice, not just smooth linear notes. Pillar 2, mind mapping as active recall. People often think active recall means flashcards, Anki. But flashcards often lead to atomic knowledge. You know the definition, but you don't understand the system. The mind map can be a supercharged recall tool. Try it yourself with what I'm going to show you. When I did this, I was blown away with the results in just 30 days. So, instead of looking at a card, you take a blank sheet of paper and reconstruct the entire hierarchy of a subject from memory. That's full field retrieval. Not just one fact, but the structure around it. The LTP trigger. By forcing your brain to remember how concept A connects to concept C without looking at your notes, you are driving repeated, coordinated activity in the networks that store that knowledge. Exactly the kind of pattern that supports synaptic strengthening and long-term learning. You're not just copying, you're rebuilding the circuit. The 80% rule. Classic research comparing rereading versus retrieval practice shows that students who repeatedly retrieve information can remember dramatically more, sometimes nearly twice as much, after delays than those who just read until it feels familiar. Think of it this way. If the passive group is stuck at 40% recall, the active recall group is playing in the 80% territory. It's not magic, it's retrieval. Pillar 3, nonlinear encoding, the radiant hack. Your brain uses something like radiant thinking. It starts with a central node and explodes outward into associations. Start with spatial memory. By placing a concept in a specific location on your map,
You recruit your brain's natural ability to remember where things are, not just what they are.
Similar to how memory athletes use locations to remember long lists. You aren't just remembering a word, you're remembering a location in a little mental landscape.
Now you're going to use the hook method. Every branch in a mind map acts as a hook.
If you forget a specific detail, the surrounding branches provide contextual cues that allow your brain to triangulate the missing info. Instead of a single rope, you have a whole climbing net. Now this is where we go to genius level. Cross-linking technique. When you draw a line between two distant branches, you are creating a mental shortcut, an extra pathway between ideas that don't usually sit together. This is how creative breakthroughs often happen, finding connections between seemingly unrelated data and wiring them together in your own brain. Pillar 4, the Feynman integration. You've heard of the Feynman technique. Explain it to a child.
But here's the genius upgrade. Map the explanation.
Here's how to do it in 4 simple steps. Step 1, place the concept in the center. Step 2, draw branches using only simple language, no jargon. Step 3, if you find a branch you can't simplify, that is a neural gap, a place where your understanding isn't wired yet. Step 4, go back to the source material only for that gap. This prevents overstudying what you already know and focuses your metabolic energy on the weak links in your neural chain. Genius is not just knowing more, it's optimizing where you spend your effort.
Pillar 5, the 30-day implementation system.
To fully rewire your brain, you need a protocol, not just a new technique. The tools. Ditch the apps that do the thinking for you. Use Xmind or MindMeister for digital if you like. But many people find that unlined paper and colored pens make it easier to engage visually and physically with the material, which can support learning.
The key is that you are doing the drawing and the recalling.
The no-book rule. When mapping, the book must be closed. If you struggle, that pain is actually the feeling of your brain working hard enough to encode and stabilize the information. The desirable difficulty that leads to better long-term retention. The 3XD protocol, 3 blocks of 30 minutes of deep learning.
30 mins, consume new info, deep work. 30 mins, the brain dump map, active recall.
30 mins, refinement and cross-linking, the Feynman check. Neuroplasticity is a biological fact, not a self-help theory. Repeated, effortful practice over weeks can literally change how your brain is wired. From synaptic strength to, in some cases, the myelin that insulates your pathways and makes signals faster. Every time you struggle to connect 2 nodes on a map and succeed, you are giving that circuit another rep, another chance to strengthen.
Genius is simply the result of a brain that has been forced to build more bridges than the average person. You aren't born with a web of knowledge. You weave it, one branch at a time.
Now imagine when you have a whole city of knowledge in your brain. Here's what you will feel after just 30 days if you actually follow the protocol. Week 1, you will feel mental fatigue. This is cognitive load. It means it's working, not that you're broken.
Week 2, you'll notice you can explain complex topics in conversations without searching for words as desperately.
Week 4, you'll start seeing patterns in the world that mirror your maps. This is the genius shift. Your brain is now wired for synthesis, not just storage.
Your brain gradually weakens the connections you don't use. The classic use it or lose it principle in neuroplasticity.
In the next 30 minutes, take a blank sheet of paper.
Put how to rewire my brain in the center.
Map out the 3 pillars I just gave you from memory. Explain that map to a friend or even to your camera. If you're ready to stop studying and start wiring, hit that subscribe button.
Which concept are you going to map first? Let me know in the comments. I'll be looking for the most complex ones.